Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Coaching the Flourish podcast. I'm your host, John. We're here with Raj. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are live in our Q&A session, ready to go. Raj, how are things going? How are you?
I'm good. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you, John. I'm sorry if you hear thunder and lightning in the background. It's Florida afternoon storms are happening. But I'm thinking about the question that you just talked about, holding energy. It's different holding energy in those different kinds of environments and contexts to coaching, isn't it? It is for me. I don't know whether it is for you.
Oh, it's interesting. So interviewing is interesting to me, and I've just come off of hours of it. So it's a little bit of, asking questions. And, as a coach, we're trained to ask questions with just curiosity and, no judgment, go wherever. The interview process is almost opposite that. You're asking questions and then you're judging them, but they know you're judging them. And it's like a known thing. Like you're going to say, okay, I'm going to get into this interview and be judged. And hopefully I pass. Like, oh my goodness. It's a lot. And I feel for them. I feel the sensitivity. I'm actively rooting for them. And at the same time, I know that I get myself in trouble if I root too much or if I ignore things. I don't know. It's an odd kind of experience, but I feel like it is one that, there have to be, there are interview coaches. There are people who help people with interviews in this process. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of inner work too. And that's what I really like about coaching and in professional growth. And, I've learned to take the perspective that, in this process, I'm using entrepreneurship, using my career growth to also grow myself personally and professionally. And I feel like that's the perspective that I have to lean into, and I think people who interview best lean into that perspective as well. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
How would you say that executive coaching skills has helped the interview process?
Well, I think what I have learned is, there are different kinds of organizations. There are different kinds of job positions. There are different kind of fields and cultures, and there's definitely a sense of, I think the size of the organization also matters too. So when I was doing executive coaching, the organizations I were working with were quite large, and people in there had there were more guardrails of what their project wasn't, and they had more people that they were reporting to. It was more of a traditional, larger workforce. And those kind of sessions, those sessions work pretty well with, coaching and the idea of setting a strong topic and getting that, looking at a strong topic that matches up with the performance review, which feels more formal to me. And I feel like that formality is really useful, but it's not something that, like Coach Training EDU, we're just a smaller organization. We only have 12 full-time people. We don't really have the luxury of having too much routine yet, because there's a new project. There's always a new thing. There's some people the 2.0 is finished now, so we moved on to health and wellness, but that will be finished soon. So there's always I'm yearning for a routine, but we just don't have it yet. We're still more of a startup phase, and we're a smaller company. So when people ask me, so what's the exact job description? I don't really have one. We have ideas of okay, these are the areas, but it's not like someone has been doing this for 2 years. We know exactly what their checklists are. Here are their checklists go. We're just not there yet. And I want to be, but that's the state of the organization. So I feel like from an executive coaching standpoint, it's funny to have most of the companies I've worked with be very large, where this one's very small, and to feel the difference, but I respect the difference. And I think I'm understanding the difference more now. So in these interview processes, I'm very clear on this is where we are as an organization, and some people love it, some people don't, and that's okay. If you don't like it, it's not for you, that's fine too. It's better if we find this out now rather than 3 months from now. So that's my perspective on it.
Might I add to that, 12 full-time people, but impacting thousands of people's lives.
We have 15 trainers, so 12 full-time people and 15 contracted trainers, so 27 people total. That's a number. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Exactly. 27 people, and then all the people that go through the programs and all of the people that they coach. It's remarkable, really. And
Yeah,
I was looking at, just thinking about how does that feel when you think about it like that?
well, I've been in it for a while, so it feels it's definitely normalized. Because this has been happening for 5 years now, 5 years, not this large, but like a number of people. When I take a more of a bird's eye view and think of where I was I started out as a Latin teacher to now, it's a little surreal. I have to be transparent. Like, part of me thinks I'm going to wake up and, be faced with a class of, 20, 13-year-olds again and realize, okay, I'm a 7th grade Latin teacher again, trying to get them to choose Latin for 8th grade. Like, that's what I did. For 4 years, I had to pitch a dead language to 13-year-olds. And hopefully, a certain number of them would say yes so that we could keep the program alive. I don't know. Yeah. That's what it feels like. It feels like that to this. And I think what I know to be true, for anyone who's thinking about hopping into the coaching world, the field, is the fundamentals of this profession are correct. Meaning that it is it's enough to listen and be curious for a period of time in someone's life, and to have that person pay you for that time. It will increase their productivity 20-30%. And half hour a week, every other week, will do that. And there are studies that show that. So the fundamentals of this profession are correct. And that's just, delivering one-on-one value. We're not even talking about the kind of culture change that happens when an organization brings coaching in and gives basic coach training to all of their employees, or starts to adopt ideas of empathy, kindness, and listening and growth mindset. All of these things that can really integrate into the fabric of an organization. I feel like, so the fundamentals are correct. And whenever I felt like, am I making a huge mistake with my life? I have a full-time job teaching. I love teaching. It's fun to do. But then, hey, I'm going to just jump and be a full-time coach. Like, really? With a 1-year-old? And we're going to move 5 hours away in a whole new city and make this work? And
you did, John. You made it work.
Oh goodness. There were days, Roger, telling you, there were days I didn't know where the next thing was going to come, and I still had to make the phone calls and get up and do the things. And wow, I look back at it now and think, it was a journey, but it was totally worth it. And I feel like we're only just getting started with the impact that we can have as an organization. So it's like, buckle up. It's going to get really cool really soon.
Absolutely. And that is such a beautiful segue into the question that I have for you next. So why would someone become an executive coach?
There are a couple of reasons. What I see is the most successful executive coaches are the people who really are in it. They're doing it because they feel there's a yearning to change the culture of what it is to work, and to feel and to know, yes, empathy, kindness, humanity. These are assets. These are things to be nurtured and cultivated, rather than things to be ignored or just look at numbers and spreadsheets and hard data. Which there's a balance to look. You also need to look at hard spreadsheets, hard data, trends, like analyses that have numbers to them. I love numbers, and I think that there's that. When those two things coexist and are both nurtured, that's when organizations, that's when people thrive. And I think people who the most successful people I've seen in the executive coaching world are people who have a larger idea of where they want to see the workplace shift, have some experience with it, and maybe they've even experienced being executive, working with an executive coach and feeling what that feels like firsthand. Those are the people I see, making the leap into this profession, doing well, and really thriving. People who see that vision.
So I agree with that, and I'm really passionate. I think all leaders should actually train in coaching skills anyway, even if they're not going to be practicing being an executive life coach specifically. And I think we know that people that come through the programs, you have people that sign up to be executive life coach who want to start their own business, and they want to shift career. We have people that come through the program that want to enhance their consulting business. They're a consultant, but they're kind of looking for something else to add to their business. And then we've got executives who are in organizations who, as you say, they want to be more empowering leaders. They want to shift the culture. They want to focus on being versus doing. And then I think about my experience with group coaching with executives as well, and how this feeds into talent management and inclusion and belonging as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was that moment when you knew that the fundamentals of coaching were really useful in the executive space? Or, it could be like, a series of moments, but like what's one that stands out to you? Because I always find this fascinating to get that moment in time.
Well, I think for me personally, I was responsible for commissioning a lot of leadership programs for our consultants and healthcare practitioners in healthcare when I worked in healthcare in the UK. And the aim of that was that if you take care of your staff, they're going to take care of customers. And I was lucky enough, I wasn't just commissioning it, I went on the programs myself. Mm-hmm. So that was brilliant for me because I was kind of testing them out and seeing how our contractors were doing. And of course, I love learning. And I think for me, it was when I was in the program and I could see when I went and practiced some of those skills, how it shifted my relationships with my staff. And it was, I am a recovering perfectionist. I can be impatient. I love structure. I like things a certain way. Yeah. And sometimes there would be frustration or, I wasn't very good at delegating. I wasn't particularly good at understanding people from their map of the world. And I think when you start to work on yourself and learn about yourself, like with the core motivation, for example, you understand why you might be behaving in that way, why you are showing up in that particular leadership style, and why it might not be working for other people.
Yeah. I mean, these are really, I think these are really big questions that are not, it takes courage to look at these questions, and it's not comfortable sometimes to get this kind of feedback. I think what I find is the most useful thing is people who have a fundamental belief that even if they get feedback that is negative or is not, optimal, that there's a belief that they can grow and change in order to be different, to reinvent themselves. And it's never too late. What I've learned from coaching is never too late to really to reinvent ourselves if we do it with mindfulness. And I feel like that's the, to me, executive coaching, it's helping people tap into that hope that they can tap into their strengths and character traits and be enough to look at weaknesses or feedback and really look at that. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. I know I do it too. I know I have my blind spots. I have an idea what they are, but I don't know if I really want to go into them. It's kind of like a software program where you're like, yeah, we know this is a known deficiency, but we're just going to leave it there for now because we just don't have the resources to deal with it.
You don't want to run the program to get rid of the bugs.
Known limitations. All right. Way better than the unknown limitations. Right.
Yeah. Known limitations. I like that. And as you're talking, John, one of the things I'm thinking about is I knew in the UK there was a certain amount of stigma years and years ago around coaching or being a coach or life coach. Yet I find it really different in the exec world. It's almost as though it's a badge of honor. When I'm working with leaders aspiring to be a coaching kind of leader, it's like it's the highest rank they feel that they can reach in their leadership style. Why do you think that is?
There's some good marketing out there with books. Like a couple of these books have some really great marketing aspects to it. So I think that's helpful for the field. Those marketing books come from a belief that the fundamentals of coaching are correct. Just what we talked about earlier, the idea that if an executive spends 20 to 30 minutes, they're in being coached, they now have an opportunity to increase their productivity by 20 to 30%. That could be massive to an organization. So the fundamentals are correct. So that's where if your supervisor is trained as a coach, that supervisor also has their skill sets in coaching. Imagine the whole organization. So this is where it's coming from. It's coming from the raw numbers of coaching works. I don't believe those ROIs. Was it 5-10 years ago? There was that thing going around. The ROI of coaching is like 7 times. If you put in, I know where those came from. I don't know. I think that's silly, but I have seen different studies of say 20-30% difference in decision making. I think it's about right. That feels right for me in my life. Like there are times when I am more heavily coached than others, and when I am more heavily coached, just things are easier. It's hard to put it's hard for me to go back to the uncoached life. I feel like if people are if you're living an uncoached life, you're just missing out. So, sorry, but get on it. Do some Google searches, find a coach, interview 3, pick one, do it for 3 months, see what happens. It's one of those sneaky things where it doesn't feel like you might not even talk that much with your coach, like about certain things, but then you'll find yourself 2 or 3 weeks later just making better choices, or things just seem smoother than they were before, only because you process stuff out loud that you didn't think you may not even need to have processed, in a way that's not judgmental or gives you a label or makes you feel bad about yourself, but in a way that makes you feel empowered. And that trickles into all the other areas of your life too.
Yeah. Uncoached life. Wow. I can't even imagine my life without coaching.
I know, right?
I think about all the things I needed to learn when I was in that space. So I think you already answered most of this, but how would you summarize the benefits of hiring an executive coach?
It will make you 20 to 30% more productive in your life. That's the benefit. Full stop. Among other things.
Among many, yeah.
Yeah, among many other things, but it's that to me is the foundation piece that then allows you to explore. Like, okay, let's say if I were just starting out, brand fresh, never found coaching, and then let's say I'm working in an organization and my supervisor says, hey, you need to get a coach. Fine. This is what I would look for first. Is helping further sharpen my clarity around my strengths and how I could use my strengths in my current role, and to have ideas of what those strengths are and to really lean into them, and then understand what they aren't, so I could partner with other people who have those complementing strengths. That would be sort of stage. If I were just brand new to the whole coaching world, that's how I would use an executive coach myself. From there, it just, it's almost like whatever problem we have in our lives, whatever is annoying us or whatever we have, like that little grain of sand in the shoe or whatever, that is what I've found from coaching is that's an entryway. That's a gateway for deeper insight and understanding to happen. And what the coaching process does really well is it uses anything that we feel is a problem or that's tugging at us, it explores it with curiosity and doesn't necessarily ask, okay, so where is it from? Like what category is it? It's not like we're not trying to find the causality of it. We're not even trying to find the ontology of it. We don't really need to, give it define its characteristics and put it into its slot. That's sometimes helpful too. And I realize that is a valid form of coaching and goes there. But what we're really asking ourselves is, okay, it's here. How do you want to use it? How do you want to use it? What's the purpose of this? And when you get to that level, then things start to really click in place. Even ask yourself, what's the purpose of, I know I have a blind spot here. I know I have a weakness here. How can I use this weakness like on purpose? Like, I could use it by looking for someone who has it as a strength, being vulnerable, forming a deeper connection and relationship with that person. And now I've made a friend. I can use my weakness to invite a friendship, a professional friendship. Oh my goodness, it changes everything. When you start to shift away from good, bad, and look at useful, not useful, look at what's the purpose of this thing, it opens doors. And this to me is like, what I feel like is the concept that we're trying to move into all these different spaces, especially in the the executive world is doing this. I think is a leader in this idea of using even strengths and weaknesses simply because it works. And when you're in this space and when you're dealing with this, these large amounts of money, when you find something that works, it's just a matter of time before it's going to get adopted. And it is. And the executive world is really, it's an engine for insights like this and moving the ball forward. That's my sense of the state of coaching in the executive world right now.
Yeah. And I mean, I work with a lot of very senior execs who are looking for that purpose piece. And, the question might be, why executive coaching if you've already got high achievers? And I would say 90% of the people that I'm working with are high achievers in their world, very successful, achieved really big things, know how to set goals. Yet they come to a point, and this is kind of the world that I'm working in, where they are looking for something more and more meaningful and purposeful goals connected to self, where they've only perhaps known one way of doing versus a way of being. And they've get to a point where they're not caught up with themselves, or there is that jet lag piece. I remember John coaching me once, and there was not this recognition of what I had already accomplished. So being in the here and now, and then how to utilize it. There's not been a minute, as I say, I work with so many execs who are fast-paced, going, what's the next goal? Where do I go from here? How do I continue to achieve? That there is this yearning of taking a minute just to acknowledge, and then how do I now use this for the greater good?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You do a lot of executive coaching, Raj. If you had, let's say, a concept that you could roll out that you see as a pretty, that is a common thread through a lot of your coaching calls, what would that be?
This is a good question, because I was looking at themes and commonalities the other week as well. And male or female, one of the biggest pieces that comes up all the time is imposter syndrome. We do the inner critic, and I think there's almost a separation from self, and it goes back to being in this cycle of wanting to achieve or be a certain way, and they've not caught up with themselves. They've not caught up with their own successes, and it's almost looking in at yourself or back at yourself and thinking, is this me? And hence the imposter showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking back to executive coaching clients I've worked with. Yes, and yes. Very true. What do you love best about executive coaching?
What do I love best about executive coaching?
Mm-hmm.
I love surprising new perspectives. I love when people can recognize that they're human beings first versus value being in what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Those connection points to the entire person.
Yeah, that's cool. It feels like a great stopping point for this. Thank you, Raj. I love this Q&A. I love this Q&A style. I feel like it's fun. I miss it from teaching, but this gives me a little bit of that. I used to do this for hours, for years, hours at a time, hours a day, you know? It's 5 hours of Q&A. And then here we are. We only get 30 minutes a week, but we have to stuff it all in. Well, thank you, everyone. This is lovely. Thanks for listening and supporting and being a part of this coaching community. It really is. I see it. Like, it really is making an impact. And I think it's only going to accelerate. I think years, decades from now, people are going to look back, and coaching is going to be as, you know, I think this will be the future of the way that we educate young people. It'll be the future of the way that we expect bosses and leaders to be coach-like, because there really is the fundamentals of the situation are correct when the people empower other people. That's it. And this is essential to coaching. So thank you all for listening. Another Q&A. Coach and Flourish.
Thanks, John. See you all soon.
See you next week. Bye.